A mercenary is only considered valuable if he is willing to give his life for his master. On this battlefield, the cost of such loyalty is clear. These are the insults he is forced to hear from his employers every day. He endures their words while the fires of war consume everything around him. He empties the last of his flask, letting the final drops spill out. There is nothing left to sustain him but his own cynicism. He tosses the empty vessel into the flames and looks out over the devastation. He remains standing while so many others have fallen. He reflects on how predictable the highborn truly are. They only offer rewards like land and titles when they are desperate for someone to fight their wars. The man reflects on how easily people change their minds after making grand demands. He adjusts his clothing while considering the dishonesty he has encountered. He walks across the stone ramparts, struggling to believe the words he just heard. To him, the statement was so outrageous that it surpassed any lie he had been told before. A high-ranking knight in heavy armor stands firmly in his way as the day begins to fade. The warrior watches him with a stern and unwavering presence. The armored commander demands that the man face his end immediately. In response, the man questions if the commander has truly forgotten his identity. A tense silence falls between them as the man in the cloak meets the knight's gaze with a confident smile. They stand face to face, neither one backing down. The mercenary expresses surprise at the strength shown by his opponent. He questions his own understanding of the person standing before him. He speaks of the honor found in a warrior's death on the battlefield. He reaches for his weapon, signaling that the end of their struggle is near. His focus sharpens as he prepares for the final exchange. The playfulness vanishes, replaced by a cold determination to finish the task. He watches the knight closely, acknowledging the gravity of the moment. He prepares to issue a final command. The knight receives his last mission. He stands ready to carry out the duty entrusted to him. A man watches from above as fire consumes the city below. He acknowledges that their defeat is now a certainty. The soldiers of his house stand firm, their weapons ready for the final confrontation. They remain loyal even as the end draws near. His focus shifts to the Crawford family, knowing the target of the enemy's blades is clear. He carries the burden of their name through the smoke. The defenses crumble as a great tower falls under the relentless attack. He snaps back to reality, realizing his mind had begun to wander. He greets the dire situation with a grin and an open gesture. He pushes aside his grim reflections to face whatever comes next. The dark-haired man realizes it is finally time to move on from this place. He reflects on the downfall of a legendary noble whose immense talent was not enough to prevent him from being cornered. He asks for clarification on his current task, wondering if he is expected to find a way out of the surrounding danger. The commander explains the urgency of the situation, revealing that the enemy traders are preparing for a final, all-out assault the following day. Smoke and embers drift through the air above the battered remains of the fortress. The crumbling walls show the heavy toll of the ongoing siege. The knight declares his absolute resolve to hold his ground. He commits himself to the fight, intending to stand firm until his final breath. The knight offers a precious gemstone as payment for a contract. He believes the wealth it represents will be enough to secure an agreement. The offer is immediately rejected, and the treasure is cast away. The knight's attempt to cover several years of expenses is met with open hostility. The knight watches as his payment is discarded. The negotiation has taken a sudden and tense turn. The leader of the group makes it clear that he will not be manipulated by wealth. He refuses to let his character be underestimated any longer. He exposes the true nature of the knight's request, claiming they are being asked to sacrifice their lives as mere tools. The men stand ready as the deal falls apart. A man questions the cold reality of being abandoned by those they serve. He wonders if they were left behind just to buy their master more time, and if survival even matters when the enemy will never show mercy. High on the castle ramparts, the two leaders discuss the grim future of their men. They face the truth that their time is running out as the sun begins to set. The knight admits his army is bound by gold rather than honor and will fall apart once he is gone. The mercenary responds with a sharp, knowing grin at the harsh logic of war. He continues to mock the situation, pointing out that their company has earned a dark reputation. He knows exactly how their opponents view them. The forest is littered with the remains of those who have already fallen. In the distance, the enemy approaches, intent on finishing their mission to wipe out every last mercenary. A knight notices a comrade coughing and struggling alone in the dark woods. He stops to observe the figure leaning against a tree. Concerned for his fellow soldier, the knight moves closer to offer assistance. He reaches out a hand to check on the man. He kneels beside the fallen figure as other soldiers approach from the distance. The injured man remains slumped against the trunk, barely moving. Without warning, the situation turns violent as blood sprays across the armor. The supposed ally strikes, catching the knight completely off guard. The ambush is revealed to be the work of the Fang mercenaries. Panic spreads through the ranks as the soldiers realize they have walked into a deadly trap. A blade pierces through its target as blood splatters across the ground. A knight on horseback shouts in outrage, realizing the enemy had disguised themselves as his own fallen soldiers. The veteran soldier reacts with pure fury at the discovery of the trap. He struggles to process the treachery that has unfolded right before his eyes. A sudden, lethal strike cuts through the air with overwhelming speed. The sound of the blow marks the swift end of the confrontation. The knight's head falls to the dirt, his life ended in an instant. His killer stands over the remains as the dust begins to settle. Two men discuss the shifting tide of the battle under the darkening sky. They realize their enemies are now more focused on killing them than following their original objective. Two warriors stand face to face, prepared for a confrontation. They remain still, gauging each other's strength before the fight begins. The man in dark clothing questions his opponent's confidence. He wonders if the knight truly believes he can succeed. The armored knight advises his rival to stay focused on the moment. He warns that a lack of concentration will be his downfall. The knight makes his intentions clear, stating that he must kill his opponent to take command of the mercenaries. He sees no other way to resolve their conflict. A sudden clash sends the man in dark robes sliding across the ground. The distance between the two fighters widens as the duel intensifies. The man delivers a biting insult, labeling his opponent as the worst kind of scum. High atop the castle walls, the knight responds with a formal and seemingly honest apology. The two men stand their ground as the sun begins to set. In response to the tense atmosphere, a hand grips the hilt of a sword tightly. The threat of violence hangs in the air between them. The man speaks of the unseen threats and the dangers that are currently lurking in the shadows. He remains alert, aware of the enemies watching them from the darkness. The knight brings his armored hand up, contemplating the words spoken about the hidden foes. He remains calm despite the accusations and the warning of nearby danger. Two men face off on the castle ramparts under a darkening sky. A final confrontation begins between the commander and his adversary. The sight of a fallen soldier's remains serves as a cold taunt. The commander admits that the blood of those who followed him is on his hands. He carries the heavy weight of the loyalty his men gave him until the very end. This realization fuels his next move. He raises his sword, standing firm as the leader of a lost cause. He prepares to fight for the memory of everyone he led to this place. The opposing knight watches in disbelief, unable to comprehend the commander's unwavering spirit. A nervous laugh is the only response he can manage. The knight gives his final word of agreement. He stands ready, his mind set on the path ahead. The stone walls of the fortress remain silent under the darkening sky. Embers float through the air as the atmosphere grows heavy. The knight hides his face behind his armored hand, muttering softly. He seems to be wrestling with his own resolve. He lowers his hand and looks toward the side, sensing something. His focus sharpens as he prepares for an encounter. A figure suddenly drops from above, launching a swift attack. The knight looks up just as the intruder reaches him. The dark-haired warrior bellows with rage, throwing himself into the fight. He commits everything to a desperate attack. The knight stands calm and composed, unaffected by the chaos. He waits silently for the battle to reach its conclusion. He watches his opponent's every move with a cold, steady gaze. Not a single detail escapes his notice. A violent strike cuts through the air, leaving blood scattered across the ground. The warrior's strength fails him as the reality of the blow sinks in. With one final motion, the knight finishes the encounter, leaving his opponent broken. The defeated man finally understands the overwhelming power he was facing. The warrior falls as a dark strike pierces through his body. His strength leaves him on the cold stone floor. Blood stains his face as he draws his final breaths. The battle has reached its conclusion. He accepts that his journey is ending here. Despite the peace of surrender, a single question remains in his mind. His vision fades into darkness as he drifts away from the world. The mystery of his final thought lingers in the silence. He opens his eyes in a quiet place, far from the chaos of his death. The weight of the battlefield is gone, replaced by a strange new reality. A hand is thrust into the air. The boy lunges forward with a shout, pressing his palm against the person lying before him. Vapor rises from the point of contact as he holds his hand firmly in place. He pulls back and wipes his eyes with his sleeve. Lucian sits up in bed, startled by the urgent call for his attention. The young man wakes up in a state of utter confusion. He struggles to process the reality of his current situation. He finds himself resting in a grand bed, while a servant weeps nearby. No matter how much he observes his surroundings, nothing seems to make sense. He stares at his own hands, certain that something is terribly wrong. The sight of them only deepens his growing sense of unease. He remembers having rough, blistered hands from hard work, but now they are soft and pristine. These are the delicate hands of a young master, not the ones he recognizes as his own. The person at his bedside cries out in relief, thankful that he has finally regained consciousness. Surrounded by luxury, he remains stunned by this sudden and inexplicable change in his life. A young man leans forward, sniffing the air as if searching for something familiar. He appears deeply affected by what he finds. He suddenly breaks down into loud, messy sobs while clutching the bedding. It is hard to reconcile this desperate crying with the brutal violence he displayed just a short while ago. The person lying in the bed watches the outburst with growing confusion. Nothing about this situation makes sense to them. They sit up and listen to the strange titles being used, realizing none of these words fit their past. They vividly recall the moment of their own death, a fate they were certain no one could escape. Now faced with a life that isn't theirs, they examine themselves in silence. They are left to wonder how they could possibly be here after such a definitive end. A person wakes up to the realization that they are no longer in their own body. They have somehow taken over the life of a complete stranger. Upon checking a mirror, the stranger's face turns out to be remarkably handsome. The transformation is complete, leaving the original soul to face this new reality. The surroundings are opulent, and a servant stands ready in the large, decorated room. It is clear that this new life comes with significant status and wealth. Examining the reflection closely, the person tries to reconcile their past self with this new, unfamiliar image. The physical connection to the mirror makes the situation feel undeniable. Recognizing the immense wealth of the family, the newcomer realizes they must act carefully. The first priority is to gather information and figure out the identity of the man they now represent. A young man reacts with shock to the person standing before him. He calls out in surprise, his hand pressed against his chest as he witnesses something unexpected. The blond man stares at his reflection in a large mirror, seemingly unable to believe what he sees. The young man stands nearby, watching this strange and sudden behavior. Memories of a bloody end clash with the present as the blond man realizes he has been sent back 15 years. He questions if he has truly returned to a time long before his death. Despite the confusion of his return, he tries to steady his nerves and compose himself. He acknowledges that losing his cool over the details of this new reality will not solve his problems. His gaze sharpens as he settles into a newfound sense of purpose. He focuses on the reality of his situation with a cold and clear intensity. A sudden shock leaves the young man frozen and trembling. He stares in disbelief at the person standing before him. He stammers out a frantic apology, completely caught off guard by the sudden turn in the conversation. He struggles to understand what has provoked such a reaction. His hands shake as he realizes he has overstepped his bounds. The weight of his mistake begins to settle in, leaving him increasingly desperate. The blonde figure questions if the rules of the house have changed, before demanding to know if the young man even recognizes who is standing there. The interrogation leaves the young man paralyzed with fear. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the young man immediately drops into a deep, formal bow. He offers his total submission in hopes of seeking forgiveness. A man screams in agony, unable to contain his overwhelming distress. His voice rings out, marking a moment of intense emotional turmoil. The sudden outburst leaves the observer completely frozen in shock. They can only watch as the tension in the air thickens. The emblem of a powerful family flutters in the breeze, It represents a name that carries heavy weight throughout the land. The Valdec family's ancestral home stands as a testament to their enduring influence. It is a place where history and status converge. This prestigious lineage has served as the empire's foundation for ages. They have occupied a place of honor right next to the throne, securing their legacy through loyalty. A man of high status stands before his family crest, representing the authority and legacy of his house. Guards keep watch at the entrance to the grand estate's inner halls to maintain order. The routine of the long shift becomes tiring for one of the sentries on duty. A man awakens to find himself back at his former workplace, but in a different body. He realizes he has been reborn as the third son of the prestigious House Valdec. He begins to navigate a world of wealth and influence. Coins are tossed as he starts his journey in this new existence. A lone warrior stands in a silent cemetery, his cloak stained with the blood of his enemies. He lingers among the graves after the battle has ended. He pauses to take a drink, carrying the weight of his recent struggle. He stares into the distance, surrounded by a desolate landscape. He falls through a dark, pulsing void while reflecting on the unfairness of his life. He questions what he could have achieved if he had been given the same chances as everyone else. His past and present selves appear through a shattered reflection, showing the man he was and the man he has become. The fragments of his identity break apart as he faces his own image. A hand reaches out and grips a door handle. He prepares to enter a new place. Lucian stands before the open window, reaching out toward the morning light. He welcomes the start of a new day within the mansion. A calm peace settles over him as he looks toward the horizon. He carries himself with a newfound sense of clarity. The sunlight bathes the entire estate, highlighting the grandeur of the family's home. Everything appears bright and full of life. Now dressed for the day, Lucian walks through the lavish corridors. His presence draws the gaze of the servants working in the halls. The staff whispers in surprise as he passes by. They find it hard to believe that this is the same young master Lucian they have known. Lucian stands before the household staff, who watch him with cold, shadowed eyes. Beside him, his companion remains close as they face the oppressive silence of the manor. The two exchange a glance, feeling the weight of their situation. Their shared isolation has created a bond of mutual concern. For a long time, they have had no one else to rely on but each other. Behind closed doors, Lucian has been confined, left to struggle in solitude. More than a year has passed in this state of confinement. The reasons behind such a harsh punishment remain a mystery, leaving only questions about what led to this isolation. Despite the pressure, Lucian tries to maintain his composure. He faces the uncertainty of his circumstances with a forced sense of calm. The Grand Estate operates with perfect precision, maintained by a staff that understands the strict rules of the nobility. Every movement in these halls is dictated by long-standing tradition. Archduke Sigmund has long been the Empire's strongest shield, a man of iron will and unwavering principles. His reputation defines the legacy that now rests upon the shoulders of the young heir. The memory of the formidable Archduke continues to haunt the young man's private moments. Even in his own room, he cannot escape the overwhelming influence of the man who shaped his life. The young heir remains deep in thought, weighing the gravity of his situation. His attendant watches him closely, sensing the internal struggle and the weight of the decisions ahead. Their quiet contemplation is suddenly interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. A powerful presence enters the hall, making their arrival known with a single, heavy step. The blond man ponders the rumors he has heard while his companion reacts with sudden shock. The head butler welcomes them, expressing his profound joy at seeing the young master again after a full year apart. The young master maintains a steady gaze as his companion offers a respectful bow. Edwin has been a dedicated servant of the mansion since his youth, arriving at the estate many years ago. His exceptional talents were quickly recognized, leading to his appointment as the head of all household affairs. The young man stands before the butler, certain that his secret has been discovered. He struggles to keep his composure while waiting for the butler to speak. He realizes that the butler has not seen Lucian for a long time. This gives him the opportunity to pretend to be someone he is not. He focuses his mind, ready to play the role required of him. He begins his performance, intent on convincing the butler of his lie. The young man expresses his gratitude for the progress he has made and admits to his past negligence. He explains that he has finally decided to step out and assess the current state of his family. He continues to share his intentions with the man standing before him. He is now focused on taking responsibility for his household situation. The older man remains silent, carefully observing the young man's sudden change in attitude. He listens intently to everything being said. A sense of quiet satisfaction settles over the older man as he listens. He seems to find comfort in the young man's words. The young man reacts with a cheerful laugh, feeling more at ease. He then turns his attention to the problems that need to be addressed. The young master prepares to leave the room, waving a casual goodbye as he walks away. He believes his business there is finished for the day. The butler stops him, speaking with a sudden and uncharacteristic bluntness. He asks for the young man's indulgence before delivering a serious warning. The young man halts his steps as the butler makes an unexpected request. He is told that it would be best to delay his return to the estate for the time being. The butler remains firm, his message delivered with a gravity that demands attention. He waits to see how the young master will respond to such a request. Inside the study, the head of the house sits at his desk in silence. A heavy and imposing atmosphere surrounds him as he remains motionless. Lucian Valdeck stands before the desk as a serious confrontation begins. The man in the study addresses him directly, signaling the gravity of the meeting. The weight of the situation causes Lucian to freeze in place. He listens as the man across from him breaks the silence with a chilling question. The older man demands to know the circumstances of Lucian's survival. He questions how it is possible for Lucian to still be alive. The man's gaze remains fixed on Lucian, pressing him for an answer that he seems unable to give. The interrogation continues without any signs of relenting. The lecture turns toward Lucian's neglect of his duties and his recent behavior. The vast room is filled with the man's harsh words of disappointment. The young noble is caught off guard by a sudden and sharp remark. He asks for clarification, unable to believe the tone being used against him. An older man speaks with cold authority, showing no room for sympathy. He begins to voice his deep-seated frustrations. The speaker accuses the young man of using his mother's death as a shield to avoid his noble duties. He dismisses the grieving process as nothing more than the behavior of a spoiled child. The young man remains silent as the accusations continue to mount. He finds himself at a loss for words in the face of such harsh judgment. A memory of a child crying uncontrollably in bed comes to the forefront. That previous display of sorrow is now being framed as a mere public disturbance. A young man stands in a tense confrontation, clearly unsettled by the words being directed at him. He listens as someone challenges the secrets he has been keeping. Facing a stern figure in a formal office, the youth is commanded to finally reveal the thoughts he has been hiding. The man behind the desk demands total transparency. The conversation turns into a harsh accusation, suggesting the youth has been manipulating his own physical weakness. He is accused of orchestrating a deceptive situation for his own ends. The man demands an explanation for the use of sleeping pills to cause a scene. Hearing this, the youth realizes he has no memory of these events or the person mentioned. The confusion and frustration grow as the young man remains silent under the intense scrutiny. He is left to grapple with the missing pieces of his past while being judged for actions he cannot recall. A crowd gathers outside the Grand Palace doors, whispering as they wait for news. The man has passed away, lying still in a coffin filled with flowers. He was a powerful figure who held a position of great authority. He leaves behind 4 sons who were under his care and guardianship. Though they share the same father, each of these 4 heirs was born to a different mother. While I often encountered other young lords and their mothers, Lucian and his mother remained a mystery to me. She passed away from an illness when he was still very young, leaving him without her presence. Her death marked the end of an era for the family, as she was prepared for her final rest far from the public eye. The casket was closed, sealing away the memory of the woman who should have raised the young lord. She was laid to rest, leaving behind a son who would grow up in a household that felt increasingly empty. Lucian only wanted to be noticed by the Grand Duke, but his efforts were met with cold indifference. He was kept in isolation for over a year, left alone to deal with his grief and desperation. A young boy rests in a deep, quiet sleep. A faint memory of his younger self lingers over him like a dream. The boy has grown into a young man, now standing amidst the tall shelves of a grand library. He carries a serious expression as he reflects on his responsibilities. He enters the study to face his father, who sits behind a large, imposing desk. The distance between them highlights the formality of their relationship. His father watches him with a cold and unwavering gaze. Even in this private setting, the man maintains his role as a stern leader. The young man swallows hard, feeling the weight of the silence between them. He braces himself for the conversation ahead. The man feels cornered, as if he is standing on the very edge of a cliff. He reflects on a conversation that has placed him in this desperate position. The floor beneath his feet begins to fracture and break apart. The ground he stood on is no longer stable. He loses his footing and begins to plummet into the void. The precarious situation he feared has finally become a reality. In the middle of his fall, he realizes that a single word could change everything. A hidden part of himself begins to surface as he faces the end. He envisions a future where he is forced to live in a remote monastery. This life of quiet service seems like the only path left for him to take. He recalls the hardship of the Northern Territory, where he spent his life fleeing from monstrous beasts in the freezing cold. The memory of that constant struggle for survival remains vivid in his mind. The bitterness of those memories causes him to grit his teeth in silent fury. He refuses to ever return to a life of such helplessness. He makes it clear that he will no longer allow the problems of others to dictate his future or ruin his life. His resolve is hardened by everything he has already endured. Standing before his superior in the study, he finally decides to speak up and take a stand. He will no longer remain passive and is ready to voice his true intentions. His sudden declaration leaves the older man startled and concerned. The weight of his words shifts the atmosphere of the room as his defiance becomes clear. The man remains silent as he carefully weighs his thoughts. He takes a moment to process the information he has just received. He prepares to address the situation with the gravity it deserves. The room stays quiet while he finds the right words to speak. He settles on a firm decision and looks forward. The time for contemplation has ended, and he is ready to act. An attendant enters the study and offers a formal greeting to his superior. He waits respectfully for the conversation to begin. He clicks his heels together to show his absolute discipline. He stands at attention, ready to carry out his next set of orders. The young man addresses the room, speaking with conviction about the ties of blood. He makes a formal declaration regarding the relationship between a parent and a child. He continues his speech, presenting his perspective as an undeniable truth. He insists that certain familial obligations are part of a natural order. The older man listens quietly to the argument being made. He remains still as he evaluates the young man's words. Standing in the center of the hall, the young man claims that a parent must welcome back a son who shows proper respect. He frames this reconciliation as a divine requirement that cannot be ignored. The weight of the declaration leaves those present in a state of shock. The sheer audacity of the young man's reasoning makes it difficult for some to accept what they are hearing. Arrow no batch 42. 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 The young man waits patiently for a response, his gaze fixed on the person before him. A hand taps rhythmically against the wooden armrest, breaking the silence of the room. The older man finally speaks, his voice carrying the weight of his decision. With a respectful gesture, the young man acknowledges the words and prepares to depart. A subtle smile forms on his lips as he reflects on the success of the meeting. The young man's heart pounds rapidly in the tense atmosphere. He feels the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He exhales sharply, trying to release the built-up pressure. He struggles to regain his composure after the encounter. Grand Duke Waldeck values the spirit of those who are willing to fight back. He has no patience for those who move with fear. This is the true nature of the man whose reputation is built on such a fierce philosophy. He remains a formidable figure who commands absolute authority. The young man begins to move forward with the next phase of his task. He sets out to handle his first priority. A man focuses his gaze as he recalls a pivotal moment from a past conflict. In the heat of battle, a knight draws his glowing sword to face a formidable opponent. The clash of steel and magic creates a violent surge of energy that fills the air. The struggle concludes with the knight standing triumphant over his defeated foe. Now, the man reflects on the significance of that victory and the weight of the legacy he carries. The young man makes a bold claim regarding the sword, leaving the older man in disbelief. He adds that he has other business to attend to before they can continue. The older man questions the young man's attitude and the way he chooses to handle the situation. He remains quiet, taking a moment to reflect on the weight of the young man's words. Silence fills the grand room as the older man considers if the young man's statement was a mere boast or a serious declaration. The older man remains at his desk, deep in thought, while his attendant stands by in the background. The attendant waits in the room as the young man arrives for a formal audience. The young man stands in silence while the master of the house gives his instructions. The attendant bows and promises to prepare everything exactly as he was ordered. The young man is confused by the sudden decision and the task that was just mentioned. The focus shifts to the jewel on the young man's chest, which has become the center of the discussion. The sun shines brightly over the grand estate as a busy day begins. People in carriages move through the courtyard, filling the air with the sounds of activity. Workers carry a heavy wooden chest across the grounds, straining under the weight of the load. They move carefully to deliver the large container to its destination. The lid is opened, revealing a massive fortune of gold coins and jewels inside. The treasure glitters, showing the immense value hidden within the box. A man stands before the overflowing riches while his companion reacts with shock. The wealth of the chest illuminates everything around them. Looking out over the estate, the man watches the busy courtyard below. He reflects on the scene as the work continues. A massive fortune of gold coins sits before him, far exceeding what he expected for a single month's pay. He gathers the coins into his hands, feeling the weight of his new wealth. This unexpected windfall provides the means for him to finally change his circumstances. He determines that with these resources, he can successfully craft the elixir needed to strengthen his frail body.